Hi everyone, this is Veronica. Today we are going to talk about this topic. Here the Supreme Court has said that state can regulate the minority institutions. So what does this mean? We will discuss in detail. For my video updates and queries, you can connect with me on Instagram and Facebook because I feel together we can make a difference. So here we'll talk about the relevance of this topic from your examination perspective. See, for UPSC if I talk, in Polity Mains Paper 2 it will be covered under this topic. At objective level you should know about fundamental rights confined to the minority communities, and at subjective levels you should know about minority rights. Now see in what context today we are talking, because Supreme Court, as I told you, it held that, gave a verdict that state has the rights to introduce a regulatory regime in the national interest to provide minority educational institutions with well qualified teachers so that they can achieve excellence in the education. So here we are going to discuss this judgment of the Supreme Court, because here what they mean, that article, there's an article in our constitution, Article 30, and they said it is not absolute. Article 30 is what? Especially the clause 1, right of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. But they said this particular right is neither absolute nor above the law. So the regulatory law should, however, balance the dual objectives. So what are the dual objectives here? First objective is to maintain the quality of education, right? Quality is important. And second objective here is right of minorities, okay, to preserve the right of minorities. So there are, for this Article 30 clause 1, there are two dual objectives. I will explain them again. The balance should be maintained between these dual objectives for ensuring the standard of excellence as well as preserving the right of minorities to establish and administer their educational rights. So regulations that embrace and reconcile these two objectives should be very, very reasonable. So the managements of the minority institutions, they cannot ignore such a legal regime by saying that it is a fundamental right under Article 30. That is what the Supreme Court meant. Now, what they mean by serving the national interest. See, firstly, just read this. I'll read this out for you. A regulation framed in national interest must necessarily apply to all the institutions. So for all the institutions, regardless whether they are run by the majority or they are run by the minority, as I told you, the given essence of Article 30 clause 1, they want to ensure equal treatment. So why Article 30 is there? To ensure equal treatment between the majority communities and the minority communities, especially given their institutions which are run by them. So here an objection can certainly be raised if an unfavorable treatment is meted out to an educational institution established and administered by the minority. So they have given the provision that you can definitely raise an objection if there is any unfavorable treatment given to these institutions. But if ensuring of excellence in educational institutions, it is the underlying principle behind a regulatory regime, and the mechanism selection of teachers, that in what way the teachers are selected, they are designed, this procedure is designed to achieve excellence in institutions, the matter may stand on a completely different footing. So they have told they divided the education onto two grounds that I will explain you later. So mostly they have talked about to strike a balance. A balance is needed between the two objectives, because the court explains how we can strike a balance between these two objectives that I told you. One is the quality of education, that we want to achieve the excellence in education, and the other is the right of minorities, how to preserve them to run their educational institution. So these are the two objectives and we need a balance. So for this, what court has done, they have divided the education into two categories. So your first category is secular education and your second category is education directly aimed. Please try to understand these lines clearly. So first is normal, you are going to give a secular education. Second is, it is little complex, that education is being given which is directly, the aim of that kind of education is to deal with preservation and protection of the heritage. You want to protect or preserve your heritage, your culture, your script, special characteristics of a religious or a linguistic minority. So minorities are of two types, either they are linguistic minorities or they are religious minorities. So here the court divided the education into two parts. So one is your secular education and other based on your, if you want to give a religious or a linguistic education in order to preserve your heritage, culture, script and special. So both the things stand out differently. So when it comes to the latter means the second one, that you want to preserve the culture, heritage and your religious teachings to be given, so that should be given to and court here advocated the maximum latitude to be given to the management to appoint the teachers in the latter case. So the court reasons that only teachers who believe in religious ideology or in the special characteristics of the concerned minority would alone be able to imbibe in the students admitted in such educational institutions what the minorities would like to preserve, profess and propagate. Right. However, there is for the secular education minority institutions where the curriculum is purely secular in nature, the intent must be to impart education availing the best possible teachers. Then obviously you don't need the teachers from the same religion if you are imparting the secular education and your aim is to bring a curriculum which is purely secular. So here we'll talk about the background of this case also. See, this judgment came after the validity of West Bengal Madrasah Service Commission, or you can say Madrasah Service Commission Act of 2008. It was challenged. So this act, what this act stood for, it mandated that the process of appointment of teachers in aided madrasas would be done by the commission whose decision would be binding. So you know, madrasas, they are recognized as the minority institution. So here the Supreme Court upheld the validity of this particular 2008 act and said that commission is composed of people who have profound knowledge in Islamic culture and Islamic theology. So it added that the act was not violative of the right of the minority educational institutions on any count. So the provisions of the act were specially designed for madrasas and the madrasa education system in West Bengal. So Supreme Court, even here they talked about few other cases, old cases also, like they mentioned TMA Pi Foundation case. This is a very famous case, Pi Foundation case of 2002, and they said that Article 31, right of minorities to establish, administer educational institution of their choice, it was neither absolute nor above the law. So as per the laws led in the case, what they said, a regulation framed in this national interest must necessarily apply to all the institutions. So if there is a case that unfavorable treatment is given out to educational institution, then objection can be raised. And third, as I told you, it becomes a different matter of a regulatory regime if your objective is the excellence in educational institution. So here you should know few of the minority educational rights and the or the special rights, not just the educational rights, or the special rights that are enjoyed by the religious minority institutions. Also here we'll talk about the religious minority, the minority institution based on the religion. Here we already discussed this year Article 29, Article 30. So Article 29, right to cultural and educational rights. These are Article 29 and 30. So Article 29 of the Constitution of India, it means protection of interests of the minorities. Article 30, I have told you so many times, right of minorities to establish and administer their educational interest, right? So here are some other special rights also. For example, under Article 31A, subclause A, minority educational institutions enjoy right to education as a fundamental right, and in case the property is taken over by a state, due compensation is provided to the established institutions, right? And under Article 15(5), these institutions, minority institutions, are not considered for reservation. Third, under the Right to Education Act, these minority education institutions not required to provide admission to children in the age group of 16 to 14 years up to 25% of enrollment reserved for economically backward section of the society. And there was a case between St. Stephen's College of Delhi University versus Delhi University case. It is a case of 1992 where Supreme Court ruled that minority educational institutions can have 50% seats reserved for minorities. And then this is the TMA Pai and others versus State of Karnataka 2002 case, where Supreme Court ruled that these institutions can have separate admission process which is fair, transparent and merit based. So they can also separate fee structure but should not charge capitation fee, right? So these are the few important cases and special rights given to the religious minority institutions. So this is all about today's lecture. If you have any queries, you can contact me on social media. Here I'll tell you the PDF of this lecture. You can get at t.me/Veronica_Om. So this is my Telegram channel. You'll get the PDF here. Thank you so much. So this is a channel StudyIQ. If you're preparing for UPSC or any government exam, our pen drive and tablet courses are available. If you're preparing for UPSC CSE 2020, our pen drive course is available, where you can find 100% coverage of UPSC vast syllabus. Daily current affair updates will be available. Self-paced learning process is provided. This course has been prepared by top faculties of StudyIQ, and now you can purchase this course at ₹625 per month only. For additional information, you can visit our site, and there are the phone numbers also given. You can call them and gain the additional information. You can connect with me for my video updates on Instagram and Facebook, because I feel together we can make a huge difference. For queries, you can even email me. Thank you so much.